Hey everyone, this is an introduction for my video series on muscular hypertrophy. We'll be doing a series of 10 different videos for my internship at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and the main topic is going to be muscular hypertrophy. So we'll look at different things for training techniques, methods of recovery, nutrition, and that kind of thing. And it'll be a total of 10 videos, about 10 minutes in length for each one, looking at different studies as well to support the things that I'm doing in the gym. And each video will be a little bit different. Here we go.
Alright everybody, today we're looking at a study done by Jonathan J.S. Weekly et al. And it's titled The Effects of Traditional Superset and Triset Resistance Training Structures on Perceived Intensity and Physiological Responses. In the abstract, it starts out as reading, "The purpose is to investigate the acute and short-term effects of traditional superset and triset resistance training protocols on perceptions of intensity and physiological responses." In our case, this means that we're looking for differences in training styles for muscle hypertrophy. Hopefully we'll find that supersets, trisets will increase muscle hypertrophy overall. They say here, TRI reported possible to almost certainly greater efficiency and rate of perceived exertion, although session perceived load was very likely lower. Superset and triset had very likely to almost certainly greater lactate responses during the protocols, with changes in CK being very likely and likely increased at 24 hours respectively. And then it just talks more about differences, but what that last section reads is that markers for physiological changes were greater for superset and triset, and that even if perceived exertion was lower for the superset and triset groups, that overall physiological changes were the same, if not greater, meaning hypertrophy was hopefully greater. So in their conclusion here, it reads, superset and triset can enhance training efficiency and reduce training time. However, acute and short-term physiological responses differ between protocols. Athletes can utilize superset and triset resistance training, but may require additional recovery post-training to minimize effects of fatigue. So that's pretty good. We will now look at, which I skipped over, the methods section right here. So how do they do it? 14 male participants completed a familiarization session and 3 resistance training protocols, so either traditional, superset, or triset, in a randomized crossover design. Rating of perceived exertion, lactate concentration, creatine kinase concentration, counter movement jump, testosterone, and cortisol concentration was measured immediately and 24 hours post the resistance training sessions, with magnitude-based emphasis assessing changes and differences within and between the protocols. So, They measured a bunch of different markers like lactate, creatine kinase, and testosterone for the different protocols. And, like we looked at in the conclusion, they found that superset and triset can enhance training efficiency. Let's go down a little bit more to the participants. So the 14 male participants were rugby players, and they had a training history of over 2 years. They all had at least 6 months of uninterrupted resistance training, at least 3 times a week. They did not take any supplements during the study. Only one participant took a medication for asthma. And then, of course, there was the informed consent and ethics. Experimental design. Randomized crossover design, 4 weeks beginning of the university rugby preseason. All participants did the off-season resistance training program. 24 hours after the resistance training protocol, participants were required to return to the exercise lab for follow-up measures. So it's very consistent. What were the protocols? So each protocol had the same 6 exercises: back squat, bench press, Romanian deadlift, dumbbell shoulder press, bent over row, and upright row. So it looks to me like all of those movements here are big compound movements involving lots of different muscle groups. Squat involving hamstrings, quads. Shoulder press involving deltoids, triceps, bent over row, lats, biceps, upright row, maybe some traps, lats, and biceps. But yeah, big compound movements. In the superset protocol, movements are completed consecutively, followed by a rest period. We'll go over here. The triset protocol involved an additional exercise and set, so 3 consecutive sets of different exercises followed by rest. So that one's kind of the most work followed by rest. We'll go down a little bit further and talk about some of their results in their discussion. So, discussion section reads, this is the first study to compare the acute and short-term physiological responses between traditional superset and triset resistance training set structures. Again, it reads, superset and triset were almost certainly more efficient, with possible to likely lower session perceived load. It reads more, but we'll skip down here and read, these outcomes indicate that superset and triset resistance training can enhance training efficiency, but also differing perceived and physiological responses, which is awesome. So with all of this, it also goes to say, findings showed that as training efficiency increased, there are associated increases in RPE and decreases in session perceived load. For session intensity, findings are consistent with previous research showing that increased training efficiency coincides with increases in perceived exertion. However, When factored with time, superset and triset may induce lower perceived total training loads. And we'll skip down a little bit more to talk about their conclusion. So, in conclusion, superset and triset methodologies are efficient means of resistance training compared to traditional alone. However, these improvements in efficiency come notable changes in perceptions of training intensity, muscle damage, and within-session lactate concentrations. These increases in metabolic measures occur simultaneously with likely to very likely reductions in neuromuscular performance at 24-hour post-training, which indicates a greater fatigue response. Endocrine responses in the current study varied widely. However, traditional structures induced a smaller neuroendocrine stress response immediately and 24 hours after training. The practitioner, and this is going to be one of the most important sections for us, the practitioner should consider utilizing superset and triset resistance training methods during time-constrained periods or when other training outcomes require increased training time. Alternatively, these methods could be used as a form of metabolic conditioning when an improvement in total training capacity is desired due to large metabolic responses that occur. However, with this enhanced training efficiency comes a possible need for increased recovery. Consequently, the practitioner may wish to place superset and triset forms of training at the beginning of the training week to assist in management of fatigue, and this could be further developed by placing traditional protocols in the latter half of the training week due to smaller suppression of neuromuscular function 24 hours post-training. So, that's a lot to say. Superset and triset training, which I will show some examples of in short little videos after this, are great ways to increase training efficiency, so do more work in less time, meaning increasing the training volume, and in doing so, this will increase volume of your training session and amount of sets per week. This means, even though they don't talk about it here, this means in theory that we will be able to focus on muscle hypertrophy even if we aren't looking at that in this particular study. So this study basically says that we will be able to increase training efficiency, increase training volume, and this will increase fatigue. So maybe use these things spaced out, use them early in your week, and if you have other training goals as well. But for us, I think these are great things to utilize when trying to gain muscle, and definitely use them maybe once or twice a week, not all the time. But they can definitely be tools for us when we're trying to lessen training time and increase amount of volume in a short period of time. Now we'll jump over to the workout section of the video. I'll show you a couple different movements, and then I'll hop into a conclusion for this video right after that. Alright everybody, so a quick wrap up for this video. our workout clips were a bent over dumbbell row supersetted with a bicep curl, alternating bicep curl. Of course, you can choose different movements. You can do this for legs, you can do it for chest, you can do it for back. But yeah, I chose a more compound movement for my first movement that is also working biceps, and then chose a bicep curl that directly hits the bicep for the second movement. This increases volume, increases the workout efficiency, and leads to more fatigue in a short period of time. So it's great for someone who's short on time, who wants to get in the volume but doesn't have 2 hours to spend in the gym. Something to be careful with supersets and trisets is for something like legs, it can be very fatiguing, and it might lead to being very sore the next day. So just be careful with the movements you choose. An example of something you could do for legs would be more of a compound set, so doing something like leg extensions with leg curls, so you're working two different muscle groups, just cutting the time down. If you're gonna be doing like a chest one, you could do bench press with tricep push down. Back specifically could be bent over row with a barbell, and let's say lat pull down. So just pick movements that work together well, cuts down on time, increases efficiency, and overall will help increase training volume and muscle hypertrophy in the long run. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's a good one again. Hope you guys come back next week for the next video, and we'll see you then.